diplomacy, water security, and circular economy. And today, we will talk about the future of wastewater management. You can ask your questions via the Q&A section. I'll take one or two of your questions, and we can continue the conversation on Twitter. Please follow us at Mexico_Actua, ACTUA. Without further ado, I welcome our guest all the way from Tel Aviv in Israel. Shalom Dror, Toda Rabba. How are you?
Shalom, gracias. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very good, very excited to talk with you guys.
Toda Rabba, Dror. There is a growing body of research that suggests that future coronavirus outbreaks could be tracked using sewage water. What can you tell us about this, Dror?
Yes, you know that during the outbreak of the epidemic, due to the potential for global infection, health system must be prepared to cope with exposure of the coronavirus in wastewater. And the question is the coronavirus that is secreted from discharge from sick patient, symptomatic and asymptomatic, actually reach to the wastewater? And this is a big question that most of the country in the first month of the outbreak didn't answer. We are, as an water expert, immediately ask, okay, people are secreting a lot of the virus from the body. It's reached to wastewater. What happened? How this virus behaved in water? How this virus survived in the wastewater system plant and treatment plant? For how long it survived in the wastewater treatment plant? Is this virus still exist as the active virus in the effluent, in the treated water after the treatment process? And then next, is this virus can reach to the food system? You know that in Israel we are using reuse wastewater, #1 country using the reuse of wastewater of effluent, high quality effluent, for agricultural irrigation, direct for food crops and agricultural irrigation. Almost 90% of our agricultural irrigation coming from effluent. So this is a dramatic question to answer if it could be a relict or present of this pathogenic virus in the effluent can reach to the food system, to the food chain. No one had answers. We asked the Ministry of Health in Israel, we asked the WHO, the World Health Organization, and they said, no data exists. So we arranged some international webinars across experts to talk about this issue. I was in one of the webinars in the middle of this outbreak. We talked with people from all over the world, from water experts, and we didn't have answer. A week after, a Dutch group, they were the first to do a monitoring in their wastewater system, and they found the coronavirus in the wastewater. Afterwards, several other countries, including Israel, US, I said Netherlands, Switzerland, England, and France did the same, try to monitor the coronavirus in wastewater, in raw wastewater, and they found it. They found it.
What months are you talking about?
I'm talking about late April, May.
Okay.
Not so far away from now.
Okay.
It's a recent result. And because it was so important, it's published in a day or two and spread out to the expert immediately. So we found actually the coronavirus in wastewater in two ways. One is active and one is not active. Still, we don't know the ratio between the active and non-active form of virus. The non-active is fragments of RNA molecule, but still there is coronavirus in the wastewater. And the further question has to be asked, an important further question. One, as I said before, it exists in wastewater for how long? This coronavirus is eliminated totally during the wastewater treatment stages. There is stages, preliminary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. And especially is the disinfection process that handled the treatment process is totally polished, eliminated and killed all the bacteria. Also, it's a virus in this case. So we want to be sure that no virus at all reach as an effluent to our irrigated fields. And no one has the answer yet for this. We asked the government to fund this kind of research, no funding yet. People trying to give answers in the US and other Western countries in Europe, in Israel as well. But there is no questions still what's going on during the treatment stage in modern, the best available technology, wastewater treatment plant. I'm not talking about wastewaters, flowing in the streets or reaching to the field. I'm talking about the best available technology, modern treatment today in wastewater. We don't have the answer how long this coronavirus survive. There is one study that published in May 2nd that in Spanish, they demonstrated that in secondary treatment, most of the coronavirus died, and it was not perfect. It was not 100%. Okay, they have some constructions and some problem with the result. So we cannot take this, and remember that this is only one study in one wastewater treatment plant. It's not enough to give to conclude a so important conclusion that may affect health, public health for all over the world with one small study case.
And as you said, it's very recent, so it's very hard to come to conclusions, right? So just so we understand, because maybe not all of us are experts such as yourself. So when you treat water, you have different stages, right? Yeah. So you're taking the samples from which stages, or are you waiting until the last stage to take samples? And also regarding the food system, are you sampling foods that you irrigate with water, treated water, or how do you know, or are you just focusing on water, not on the foods that are irrigated with that water?
This is a very good question. First, the wastewater treatment plant, the modern wastewater treatment plant, factory plant, we divided to several stages. The first stage is the raw sewage get in, and we are doing a primary treatment. It's mostly settling. We are getting rid from most of the heavy, what's called coarse material that can sink, use gravitation in order to sink, doing settling. And then we are actually have wastewater that mostly contaminated by dissolved organic matter and viruses and bacteria and others. And we are reaching to the secondary treatment that it's mostly biological. It's bacteria that are oxidize organic material and consuming oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and others in order to survive and to get bigger and to produce themselves and reproduce themselves. And so this is the secondary treatment. There is a tertiary treatment that is polishing the wastewater could be by a coarse filter or other filter. It could be by UV light in order to do some polishing for and another degradation and of organic materials, organic dissolved materials. And the last stage before you are released the effluent, it's already high quality effluent to the environment. you have to disinfect the wastewater because the effluent, because it could still contain pathogens. So you cannot release high quality effluent with, from the wastewater treatment plant after tertiary treatment with no disinfection process. Disinfection is mostly by chlorination. Some of them doing chlorination, some of them doing chlorination and then UV irradiation, and some doing even today ozonation, but the most common is chlorination. The question if the chlorination process is sufficient enough in order to release high quality effluent with no pathogens at all. Then the water, the high quality effluent, going with pipes to several uses. One could be artificial recharge to groundwater. It's happened in Israel, happened in several countries around the world, and it's a very beneficial way to increase the groundwater bank that you have. And you have to show that you are not infiltrate to groundwater pollutions, bacterial pollutions and chemical pollutions. You can rehabilitate streams and rivers that are contaminated, and you can increase the flow. And then again, you don't want to get into the river and the stream, the aquatic system, contaminants and pathogens. And the third one, that in Israel is the major one, is for agricultural irrigation. And imagine yourself, this source of water is the 90% major source for agricultural irrigation. So then you can do several steps. You can take the water and the end member after it's spread out for irrigation, and you check for contamination, you check for viruses, for pathogens, etc. You can take from the soil and you can take from the fruit afterwards. Some of the fruit contain a lot of water, and you can extract the water and extract the cells of the fruit or the vegetable. And by this, you can extract the microbial agent in order to find if there exists. So, but we are not there yet. No one did it yet. We need a budget. We need to plan a research and a budget from the government in order to do it. No one knows if the coronavirus going so far. I'm not believe that it's going so far. My main fear is the coronavirus still survive longer than we expect in the wastewater treatment plant or in the raw wastewater itself. And imagine yourself a scenario that we have in most of the country, the developing country in the world, that they have a lack of wastewater treatment plant, modern wastewater treatment plant. And the wastewater are flowing out in the streets or nearby rivers and nearby houses, and it's mixed in the human environment. And if this wastewater that's flowing around human environment still contain coronavirus, the question is if people can have a secondary infection by touching, by animals. You know that this coronavirus is a zoonotic virus. It's transferred to human by animals. So imagine yourself that amongst the area of the human environment, that the rivers and the stream and the canals, the open canals, that wastewater flowing freely, with the coronavirus that sick people extracted, animals get into the wastewater and can do a second. This is the question: does animal can do a secondary infection to humans? No one knows about this important question. I worked last 2 years in India, and there is places that the wastewater flows nearby the area that people live, and they have direct contact with this wastewater. In India, there is a lot of sick people and a lot of animals going inside all the time. So the question is, could be a secondary infection? No one knows this question yet. And this is a critical question in order to protect human health in third world countries, in developing countries, that the wastewater are discharged to the environment, nearby human environment.
This is, yeah. So I wanted to ask you, Dror, I'm going to take some questions from the audience because there are a lot, so I'll just select a few. So Rosalino Garcia says, in the Mexican states located on the coast, all the waste for current use in homes goes to the sea. The question is, this exposes the inhabitants of these states more to the coronavirus?
This is a very good question. Another question that didn't checked yet, well, checked in a scientific method, that in areas that wastewater discharged to the nearby coast, nearby shoreline, is the people that are interacting in the coastline by swimming, by fishing. Fishing, it's food. Remember, it's not only for entertainment. For many people around the world, I use fishing in food. So the coronavirus exists in this environment. No one knows what happened in this environment. There is some ideas that in high salinity, that the seawater is something around between 19,000 to 23,000 chlorine per liter, the virus cannot exist. But this virus is an RNA virus, it's not a DNA virus, and there is some talks that could be, because it's an RNA virus, could be still exist in salinity water, in a high saline water, like seawater. So no one check it. There is no, you cannot, if you look in the Google or look in Scholar or Web of Science, if you look for papers, you look for information, there is no information about all this regarding the COVID-19. It's new, of course, but we look for information about MERS and SARS. There are coronaviruses as well, and there is no information. No one knows if it could be risky, and it's a very good question. Very good question.
I'm going to take another question from the audience. This is from Adriana de la Parra. And the question is, could ozonation, like with ozone system, be a good way to use on fresh food to reduce contamination? So once the food is in our house, can we put, so are there additional measures that we can take when we get food to our house so we are sure it's not contaminated?
Yeah, this is another very good question. I'm dealing with ozonation for many years. It's most of our technologies, advanced technologies that we are developing, treating hospital wastewater, treating persistent compound from industrial pollution. We are using ozonation as the main oxidizer for treating pollutants. And for, of course, if you use ozonation for degrading pollutants, chemical pollutants, persistent chemical compounds, you can easily break down pathogens, and you are actually doing disinfection process. But in order to work with ozone, you need this to consider many parameters. One of the parameters is that there is a residual ozonation that can be released from the water to the air, and the worker, the student, if the student doing the study, he can breathe this ozonation easily. And if a small amount of ozonation can irritate eyes and throat and can cause skin problems. So the problem is more safety. Definitely, ozonation could be a very good solution for treating and disinfect fruit, vegetables, and other food in the kitchen. The problem is the residual ozonation gas that release from this facility, from this device, actually from this generator that the people around can breathe it and irritated and actually suffer from health problem. There is no safety device yet for home uses.
Okay.
The Chinese tried to do a device a year ago. We checked this device and it's not safe enough yet. This is our dream, to do a kind of device that any person around the world can disinfect his product at home, so we are not depending on what the government do in the let's say the general food production.
Dror, the task force that you mentioned before with different scientists from around the world, are there scientists from emerging economies such as Mexico? Have you been talking to scientists here? Or what is your approach with the international scientific community to approach this?
Yeah, I think I remember that in this webinar we had from Latin America. We had two scientists from Brazil. I think no one from Mexico precipitated. I can't remember the Mexico there. But personally, I had 3 years project in Mexico between 2014 actually to 2017. I've been in Mexico City several times, and we work with Conagua in order to transfer new technologies and information to the expert in Conagua. We were invited by Conagua to give them some courses regarding analytical chemistry, regarding how to treat persistent compounds and how to do reuse of water like we are doing in Israel. I know that in Mexico City and Mexico at all, there is a lot of problem of wastewater treatment and polluted water issues. Wastewater in Mexico is a big issue. And unfortunately, because of political political issues in Mexico, the project stopped in 2017. I'm waiting for the day to continue and to come back and to work with scientists in universities and other people from institutes and Conagua as well, in order to give our knowledge and to collaborate with locals in Mexico in order to solve problems, because Mexico actually has some wastewater issues problem. Contaminate the environment. There is a lot of contaminated groundwater, both chemicals and bacterial contamination that must be treated. I think that no one in the world is supposed to agree to have contaminated water and contaminated environment and to live in contaminated environment, and he has to demand from his government, local government, federal government, doesn't matter, to live in a clean area, to take care of the area, to take care of wastewater, and to supply high quality drinking water. So I wish to come back to work in Mexico as well.
We will be very lucky to collaborate with you again. Dror, if you have, in a perfect world, what would be one thing that you would wish that would happen for your research right now? And what recommendations would you give in order to achieve that wish?
Okay, the main issue is to actually, there is two main things that affect human health regarding water, especially where people live in cities, in big cities. The water that come in as a raw drinking water, and the water that get out, the water that we are called wastewater, the water that we are polluted and discharged from our home, from our industry, from our factories, from our agriculture that actually produce wastewater. Contains a lot of chemicals, organic and inorganic. And my wish is to be able to come to an area, a big area, a country or a region in a country. Mexico is a big country, and to be able to improve the water, drinking water system, and to be able to teach and to learn and to be able to maintain for long term that the drinking water will stay safe for drinking, and the solutions for wastewater, agricultural, industrial, and domestic will be the ultimate one. Because people are not supposed to live nearby wastewater, not industrial, not agricultural, and not others, and even not it's hospital wastewater that are more dangerous. We must collect the wastewater that we are producing, that human produce, and by using the best available technologies and in not only tertiary treatment, even fourth stage of treatment, using advanced treatment in order to produce high quality effluent and to reuse this water. Because, you know, I will ask a question, just you, instead of asking everyone, because everyone cannot answer. You know, if you look, I believe you saw raw wastewater once in your life. Dark, smelly.
Yes.
You saw this dirty liquid. You can imagine, you can give me a number of how many water you have in one volume of wastewater regarding the volume of solubes and contaminant, organic and inorganic?
I don't know.
You have an idea? Just a clue.
No educated guess. No.
So I will give you the number.
Yes.
99% of the wastewater is water. Only 1%, and even in some places less, it's contamination. Mm-hmm. We are using a huge amount of water in order to get out the wastewater from our homes, from our industry, from our agricultural area. So huge amount of water used in order to, as a conduct to throw away the wastewater from our environment. In many countries, it's not working because the wastewater reached to the nearby area, as we mentioned before, and this causes a lot of problems and contaminate the local groundwater and the local stream, river, lakes, and people suffer, and drinking water, of course. So if you have 99% water in wastewater, we must recycle it. We must separate the water from the 1% of pollutants and reuse this water for agriculture, for drinking, for industry, from industrial uses. So this is a must. But for this, we need regulations, we need experts, and we need technologies. We need to apply technologies that exist in the world. And we need that the government, the local governments and the federal government will understand that this is an important issue to protect drinking water of the citizens and to reuse water in order to prevent contamination. By reusing water, you do two main things. You're preventing, number one, environmental enemy of people, the wastewater. You collect the wastewater and you convert it, you treat it and convert it to drinking water, almost drinking water, but you reuse it again. Imagine yourself that in Sonora region that they're suffering a lot with the wastewater, they can collect this wastewater and treat it in a high quality and reuse it again in the fields. And there is a lot of agriculture there and they need the water. It is a semi-arid area, arid and semi-arid area. So people produce wastewater all the time. And instead of let the wastewater to contaminate our environment, let's take this wastewater and use it as a source.
Yes.
This is my dream. This is my dream.
That is a very good dream. Hopefully we will be able to collaborate. We are very grateful for your time and for your knowledge, Dror. There are many questions still. Where can you tell people to contact you? Because there is a lot of excitement of the participants with questions. Where can they contact you to continue the conversation?
We can do another Zoom, and or they can send me emails.
Okay, very good. We'll be in contact soon. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar. You can follow the conversation as well with us on our Twitter, @Mexico_actúa, @Mexico_actúa. Muchas gracias, ITAM. Muchas gracias, Marina. Dror, toda raba. Thank you so much.
I wish you the best. Take care with the corona.
Same to you. Thank you so much. I'll leave the floor to Marina. Gracias a todos por participar.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctor Dror Avisar. Muchas gracias, Lorena, y a todos los que nos acompañaron en este webinar. Dentro de 8 días tenemos otro ya relacionado con el tema de energía. Estaremos en contacto. Que tengan excelente día. Hasta luego. Gracias, Lorena. Gracias, Dror.
Gracias.